Hi, I'm Kat.
And I'm Gabe.
And we're
The Ghouls Next Door. We're
Yeah.
the Ghouls Next Door.
Cthulhu.
mglw'nafh. Cthulhu.
mglw'nafh. Cthulhu.
R'lyeh.
Gah'nagl. Gah'nagl.
Fhtagn or fhtagn.
mglw'nafh.
Oh, that's good. That was pretty close.
I had to finish it, otherwise he's not happy.
Yeah.
That's fine,
then
continue.
we're in trouble. Welcome, listener.
We're summoning demons, or whatever.
It's not a demon, he's a god.
We're summoning gods.
We're summoning an ancient
Mean
being
gods. The
that
gods you
will-
don't want to summon.
He's not so much mean, he's misunderstood. He is an ancient god who just upon seeing him drives people mad to the point of death.
Yeah, when you got like a human torso with bat wings and a squid head or octopus head or whatever the heck, yeah, it would freak somebody out. It's not something you're trying to look at for a very long time.
Welcome. It's 28.
Yeah.
And we're talking about H.P. Lovecraft.
For our classic horror series.
Yeah.
Woo! Spooky.
Classically horrific.
Yes.
In quite a few ways. But he is the father of a lot of creepy beings.
Mm-hmm.
Monsters.
He had a lot of messed up babies.
Pure just insanity.
Yeah, and some of them have a lot of similar features, but they're all named something crazy, and they're all horrifying.
Lots of consonants.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of consonants.
And we will teach you how to summon some of those tonight.
Yeah. We're bringing you the brooding, extraplanar, being-phile, H.P. Lovecraft, who is to thank for quite a few things, mostly just horror monsters.
Yeah.
He was inspired by our first classic horror person, which was
Poe.
Edgar Allan Poe. And then he went on to inspire others.
Yes.
Which is what this series is about.
Yeah, the classics, going back in time.
Yeah.
It's ironic that like one of the classic people is inspired by one of the other classic people, but we do with what we got.
It's 1800s.
Yeah.
It's a long time.
It's a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've mentioned Lovecraft a few times on
Many
this
times.
podcast.
Yes.
And just in life and passing.
Mm-hmm.
And just the world. And when people make the mistake of asking me about it, and then I take them on a long journey beneath the earth and introduce them to the ancient ones, and then their brains are fried. I enjoy Lovecraftian work that has spanned all kinds of ways. So, his writings I enjoy and have listened to the audiobook versions of them,
Mm-hmm.
which I find interesting because usually it'll be like a British person, but
Mm-hmm.
he's not. But he fancied himself a British man. In fact, he, when asked, or even when not asked, was explicitly on the side of the British when it came to America's independence, and thought that New England should rejoin the British Empire. He's got a lot of conflicting and interesting work, but specifically, he kind of has bled through into a lot of things that I enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to talk today about video games.
Yes.
We're going to talk about board games.
Yep.
We're going to just talk about his creepy stories.
Yeah.
But specifically, something I really like that came from him is the Call of Cthulhu the Call of Cthulhu RPG role-playing game, which is spooky, and I'll definitely talk more into it, but it's for people who don't know, it'd be like Dungeons and Dragons, but not at all and scary.
It's a great description.
Yeah.
You know, you're comparing it to a thing it's nothing like, and then you know, just
then I
adding
said
spooky stuff.
scary.
Yeah.
That's my whole thing. No,
Great job. You win.
Yeah. No, it's an interesting play because when you think about Dungeons and Dragons,
Mm-hmm.
you think about like you make an elf or you make a big warrior who goes in and just smashes things, and that's
Mhm.
fun because you're like playing as something that you definitely would not be.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with Call of Cthulhu, and a trend that we're going to see throughout a lot of work that is related to him, you play as like normal people
Mm-hmm.
or like average people who might have like interesting intelligence
Mm-hmm.
or a weird hobby, but ultimately you're normal and you don't have any super strength and your hit points are just general human hit points, and that you're probably going to go insane.
Yeah.
So it's great in that it's mostly about investigating. It's not about just running in and Leroy Jenkins it.
Yeah,
just,
you're not
like,
actually like
messing it up.
fighting for the most part. You're trying to solve the whole thing, but it's all investigative
Yeah.
and scary and spooky.
Yeah. And I would say one of the most enjoyable campaigns that they've done, a few campaigns, is the podcast How We Roll.
Mm-hmm.
How We Roll podcast. I listen to them quite frequently, and they've helped inspire me to make my own Call of Cthulhu campaigns.
Yeah.
So
I played it, so I was there.
yeah,
You did a good job.
It was
It was
good.
spoopy as MF.
As MF.
Mhm.
Yes. Yeah, I really enjoy them, and if you want to know how that kind of gameplay works, definitely check them out. And it's kind of fun. D&D I feel like it's like a new hip thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like because it pops up in media all the time now.
Mm-hmm.
Like Community did it, and
It's less of a like that's for nerds thing. Now it's just like it's cool and weird and
yeah,
everyone's a
a
nerd.
nerd now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stranger Things made it cool.
Mm-hmm.
If you're like, I don't want to be a barbarian, but I like scary stuff, then check that out.
Yeah, I want to walk into a room and then have this woman make me go insane because she's secretly another thing. That's the whole time
Yeah.
of my ex-wife or whatever. I don't know. You did a whole thing. It was like you made
Yeah.
Will go insane. All I know is
Mhm.
that's what happened, and it was
That's
entertaining.
the whole goal. I would say when you're playing D&D as like the DM, it could be really stressful because you work really hard to make this like world, and your player characters can totally destroy it and just do not what you thought.
Mm-hmm.
With Call of Cthulhu, like your whole thing is just to like mess up your player characters like in the
Mhm.
best way possible. Like
Yeah,
either
you have more
drive
control.
them crazy or murder them, and it's like you don't feel bad about it. And
It's like this is for every time
That's the
during
whole
D&D
point.
you've ruined it.
like you're going up
This is my
against
vengeance.
something that is almost impossible to fight anyway, so you're really just like you're just there for the journey. So it's more fun, I think, as a keeper, which is what they're called in Call of Cthulhu,
Hmm.
to manipulate the world in that way than DMing when they just totally usurp your whole
Yeah.
ideas that you spent all that time researching.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You're welcome. I did that.
I'm letting my nerd flag fly today.
Woo! I
about
mean, we do that
H.P. Lovecraft.
most days. But yes, I'm with you on it. I'm supportive of your nerd flag and its flying abilities.
Woo!
Yeah, you're welcome.
Welcome. Come on this journey
Friendship.
with me, and let's find out about this spooky man,
I'm here too. Rude.
this HB extraplanar mind-numbing monster craft.
Yes.
Man.
That made word sense.
Woo!
Facts. Yeah, facts. We tell you facts. All the facts. Here facts. Still facts. About that spooky stuff. Yeah, spooky stuff.
Hi.
Hey.
Hey.
Oh, you're still here.
We're here.
You stayed.
Shut up. Shut up. One. So, Kat, I bet you're thinking to yourself.
Yeah, tell me what I'm
I
thinking.
bet you're just sitting there over there and you're thinking, who is Howard Philip Lovecraft?
I love that that's his name.
And why is he so bizarre?
Is
You know? Is
so
that what you're
bizarre, so
thinking?
bizarre. You know, I don't know. You need to tell me. I just need to know. I'm very curious.
How bizarre.
That's what I was going for, and I'm happy you picked it up. I'm happy you picked up what I put down. But yeah, let's learn some things about Howard.
Let me tell you about Howard Phillip. Okay.
His name is great. Is that actually his real name?
I'm not making it up.
I thought you were literally just being funny. All right,
No,
continue.
wait.
That's
Names get better.
That's a great combination. Let's go.
Here's the thing about Howard Phillip, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was born
Whoa.
in August
That's crazy.
1890.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so after Poe, right?
Yeah.
The thing is, when he was only like a toddler, his father started hallucinating.
Okay.
And they weren't like cool hallucinations that you would think would be a direct relation. Like he wasn't hallucinating monsters.
Did he inherit?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, continue.
So his father started hallucinating, and like I said, they weren't like he didn't hallucinate monsters. It was just like normal things you would hallucinate about. Like he was away on business in Chicago, I believe, or Cincinnati or something.
He hallucinated that he was.
No, he
was. Okay, that's
away
real.
on
Okay.
business.
Yep.
And while he was in the hotel, he said that there was a maid in the hotel who was saying terrible things to him when there was no maid in the room. 2, he was saying that his wife was in trouble and was calling to him from the floor above him. She was not there. She was back at home, which is in Rhode Island. So, yeah.
He was just doing a whole he was doing a whole spooky time. Yep.
Yep. So, this is when like he was only like 3 years old, Howard Phillip. And so his father was like immediately institutionalized, and then he was there for 5 years before he died.
That's due to syphilis.
Yeah. So
that makes sense that his brain would go. That makes the holes in it. The holes in the brain.
Yeah, it makes you very sick. The whole thing is like they didn't know. Like they still don't know because there wasn't really good medical records.
Mm-hmm.
But people like guessed
that syphilis could have been the symptoms.
Yeah, and there's like rumors of like because the mom didn't have anything crazy, so it's like, did he have affairs? Whatever. Who knows?
Yeah.
But that's not important.
We cannot go back in time and find this out.
So
okay, as people do.
That's
Continue.
what's important is that he died. And
dead dad. Got it. Continue.
Dead. And the whole pretty much the entire time that Howard Phillip knew his father, he was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
he didn't have like a super positive relationship with his dad. He was just like, oh, dad's weird.
Yeah.
He's a little off. I don't really know.
Yeah. So his mom took him and they went to live with their 2 aunts. Mm-hmm. Well, his 2 aunts, his grandmother and his grandfather. Mm-hmm. His grandfather's name was Whipple Van Buren Phillips. Whipple was his name. Oh. And
Whipple?
Yeah. So when when his father died, his mom got really I don't want to say overbearing. She just got obsessed with him and loving him and
like
keeping
making
him
sure
around.
he's okay. Yeah.
Not even so that he's okay. It's just making sure he's happy and that he's there. And so she let him do whatever. And so the 2 aunts and him and her like just doted on him, and he made his own bedtime. He's like 5. Like made his own bedtime. He got to eat whatever he wanted, which meant a lot of like sweets, and like did not have any nourishment or vitamins for a long time. Had the worst like diet ever. Which later like he never really learned how to like treat himself well. And then like he slept whenever he wanted. He didn't go to school because he just didn't care. At first she kept him from school, and then when he was allowed to go back, he would just like sometimes go. He was more or less bored. Like he was intelligent and he knew things. Yeah, he just like did not care to be there.
Well, yeah, it sounded like his home life had very little structure, so any sort of structured activities would be difficult for him going forward.
Absolutely. So he loved his home because it was huge. It was full of people. He had servants because his Whipple had lots of money. And so he had this like everyone doting on him. He had this beautiful giant house. He loved his grandfather, like you loved your grandfather. And that was like his whole life. But then his grandfather suffered from some money problems. And then kind of in the decline of that, he ended up dying. And so his mom had to move away, and they got this small house. And so he lost all the servants and all the doting aunts and other people and the endless rooms to run in, and just had this tiny house, which was really severe to him. He was really intelligent, and I found this quote that said that he recalled that at 5 years old, and again, this can totally be a lie because he says a lot of stuff, and then he says other stuff in his whole life. But he says at 5 years old, when he was told that Santa Claus did not exist, he said, "Why God is not equally a myth."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like a logical turn of
a 5-year-old
phrase.
would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And then he's just like, now I'll make a bunch of evil gods.
It's like,
Or
well, if
monstrous
nothing's
gods.
real, I'll just make my own thing. So that's what I was taught. So here we are.
Yes. I kind of found all these different weird accounts about his mom. So, like, she was, super overbearing. She had this really weird kind of relationship with him when he was younger. She wouldn't let him cut his hair, which made me just think of Finn from Adventure Time because the way it was kind of described in one thing.
Yeah.
But he wanted it cut.
Yeah.
And so he cut it, and then she said he was ugly.
Oh, that's mean. Mom.
Like, a lot. Like, she would just tell neighbors, like, look at my ugly son. He's hideous.
Look at
He
his
has
short
a narrow, ugly face. And, yeah.
hair.
awful.
Yo.
Terrible, right? But then, like, they had this weird relationship where, one, she let him do whatever he wanted, but then the neighbors also reported that they would just recite Shakespeare to each other, and it was, like, this joyful, like, bonding thing.
They would just put on Shakespeare plays for fun.
They would just tell it to each other.
Yeah.
Shakespeare.
Mother's son bonding time. Interesting.
Throughout his schooling, he like went and did he did a lot of science. He really he really enjoyed science. But again, he just hated the structure of school, so he was just like, nah.
Yeah, now I'm done here. Cool.
Yeah, but the whole time he's been writing. Like, he started writing when he was very young, and like when he was like 8, wrote this like pretty interesting story for an 8-year-old. And then like a very elaborate weird story, but like he would write things and submit them to like magazines and other things like that, but like just every now and again, like he just didn't have any ambition.
He wasn't like, I am doing this like we do with our podcast. He was just like, oh, there's a thing I could put there. Cool, I'll do that.
Yeah.
All right, what am I doing now? I don't know. 6 months later. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I just
There's another one.
brooding in my room and
Yes.
like yelling about immigrants and fascism.
Yes.
He's such a complicated man. He named his cat a slur as a child. He hated immigrants. He is a very problematic man.
He also hated my people, the Jewish.
He did. And the thing is, though, he hated Hitler. But then at the same time, like within the same year, also had a quote that was like, but I get him. It's like, you can't both. You can't both. Pick a side. He also
okay, 1904. I was like, how? He would have to be kind of old by the time that stuff was happening.
Yeah. He also said that socialism was inevitable, but that also he fancied fascism.
Ah, okay. Nice.
Yeah, he's a whole bag.
He's all time.
So like you would think he's probably like this recluse that just like eats candy in his bedroom alone and broods about the world, but that's not the case. He actually had a lot of friends and people who really enjoyed him. People who, if you had asked, like, you ever gonna hang out with that Lovecraft guy? They would be like, absolutely not. He's probably the worst. And then they would meet him and they were like, well, what a jolly fellow. And just absolutely loved him. He attended lots of like conventions and a lot of things about journalism, like amateur journalism, because he has no idea what he's doing. And he's even said like someone asked like, what do you do for journalism? What has it done for you? And pretty much he was like, I've done nothing for amateur journalism, but it's done a lot for me in that it gave me all my friends. And so at one of these conventions, he met a woman, Sonia Green. And she befriended him and would travel out of her way to visit him.
Yes.
a lot. And he just totally did not get that that was a whole thing.
Yeah.
He was just like, that's what friends do. They travel way out of their way to hang out with them and sit really close to them and read all their stuff and admire them. Until she was like, hey, dummy, I like you. And he was like, oh, that's a thing. Let's get married. I heard that's what people do.
Oh my gosh.
And then they were married. But he, like, was Lovecraft. He did not show a lot of emotion. He didn't say I love you. He would say I appreciate you.
Yeah.
And you do great work. And thank you for being around. But he wouldn't say I love you. He was quoted as being adequate at lovemaking.
Oh.
Yeah, that's it. That's the thing. That's all he's got.
I mean, it didn't seem like he was trying too hard on really
No.
anything, so it's not shocking.
It's like, oh, we're doing that again? All right, well.
Here we are.
Here's a fun fact. He learned about sex from anatomy textbooks.
Interesting.
So because of that, he was completely just like uninterested in sex for a long time. Like he was just like, that's boring and whatever, and I don't have any interest in that. And just never pursued it. Which could be a reason why he just did not get Sonia at all. He was probably like, hi, here's my bosoms. And he's like, what? Yes, you have those are for children. And someday you will bear them. And then they will have sustenance from them. And she's like, dude.
Sex.
Have sex with me. And he's like, oh, right. That is expected of me as a husband. So we must engage in this coitus. Great.
For the pursuit of children.
What a fun time.
Yeah.
For the pursuit of children.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sex. All right. Well, if I must.
Yeah.
Children. All right. I guess that's a thing.
They did not have children.
Well, whatever. You know, I'm just kind of going down the line.
But, I mean, it didn't really last because, again, he wasn't an affectionate person. And you can only go so long with a robot man before you're like, I need to do something else. Also, she was supporting them. She made all the money. And she had to travel for her job. And so she was gone a lot. And it kind of just became this conscious uncoupling before Gwyneth Paltrow. They made it a thing. And so they pretty much just agreed on a divorce eventually. But they were already, like, not together for a long time. The weird thing is Sonia Green is a Jewish immigrant. And
that's the thing he hated about.
Lovecraft hated Jewish immigrants. And his thing, which is the worst, was that he said that she no longer is that because she's Mrs. Lovecraft. Like, that marrying him has made her not that anymore. She is now exempt from his hatred and is special because he's, again, the worst. So my admiration for his work is totally unconnected to him as a person because he was the worst.
Yeah. I'm getting that. Yes.
And, like, I mean, he would say a lot of terrible things about different, like, races and especially immigrants. But then he would go on and, like, he had friends of different races and that were immigrants and would be very nice and very, like, helpful to them. Like, they would not have guessed that he's been writing all these hateful things in, like, his journals. Like, you know. And it's just really bizarre that he had all these friends being someone who very easily could have just been a recluse.
Yeah.
He could have totally Emily Dickinsoned it and hid in his attic for his entire life.
But he didn't.
No.
He was out there.
But he never really took care of himself, and he never went to the doctor. And when he finally did, he had small intestine cancer. And
probably from all the candy.
I don't know if that's how you get cancer.
I don't know either, but I'm going with
but
it.
it could go with that. Him just eating his cakes for dinner. He also didn't eat a lot. He was not obese because he believed he needed to be really thin so he can look more aristocratic. And again, he just, like, really loved Britain, so he just wanted this whole, like, idea that he had for it. This aristocratic Brit who was really tiny, yet only ate cakes.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. He did end up dying at just 46 years old because of that cancer. Because by the time he went to the doctor, it was too late. It was just already spread because he waited too long, because he just does not care about anything. But like I previously mentioned, he loved Poe, It he was one of the most significant influences in his writing. His work was largely like English in nature, the same way that his was, Poe's was, and that he even specifically mentions Poe's work in some of his work. So in The Shadow over Innsmouth, Lovecraft refers to Poe's story, The Imp of the Perverse, by name. Like, he's just like, this book.
Go read it.
Yeah. And in his poem Nemesis, where the ghoul-guarded gateways of slumber suggest the ghoul-haunted woodland of Ware, found in Poe's Ulalume. Ulalume?
I don't know.
Sure. But yeah, he was just greatly inspired by his work and this idea of like this gloomy nature, and that there's a hidden motive under everyone, and that there's just like monsters in the darkness.
I mean, it could have been also like some sort of weird way to connect to his relationship with his father, and that like his father was seeing things and going insane, and he was like, oh, I see things too in my dreams, and this could have made my dad do this through aliens and whatever else.
Yeah, he definitely used to have crazy dreams when he was younger, like waking nightmares that he would remember.
Yeah.
Just like Poe did, you know, like things that they remember, and just like Mary Shelley did.
Yeah. Those kind of haunting dreams that you want to write stuff about.
Yeah. And it's like, I think it takes the talent to just like be the person who writes it down. But he created a lot of monsters, and we're going to visit them.
We're going to go on a monster hunt. Gonna catch some monsters.
We're going to catch them all.
Cthulhu.
Yeah.
Yeah, that. So, you get out your phones and you wander aimlessly throughout the city.
This would be a dope game and also terrifying.
There's not really. Is there? What are the green tokens ready to throw at your monsters so that you can close the portals?
Oh, they would be like elder signs.
Yeah, get elder signs. Get some elder
gates.
signs and some gates. Just walk around the city, throwing them all around, finding yourselves some beasts.
Yeah.
And you send them back to the whatever
guys.
the places.
Yeah.
Sometimes space, sometimes blah, blah, blah. Sometimes I don't know.
Yeah. I think everyone is, if you don't know who Lovecraft is, you probably do and you don't know. And primarily that is, you probably know about Cthulhu.
Mm-hmm. He's the big guy. He's the big main one that everyone's like, oh my God, yeah, that.
Cthulhu for president.
Nah.
Yeah.
Nah. Wait, no. mglw'nafh. Cthulhu R'lyeh. Ghouls. There you go. You are welcome. Yeah, no, he's hanging out. He's just like,
now we've summoned him.
We have summoned him, and now we may be able to capture him. So
perfect
going on that beast hunt was successful.
Yeah.
Throw down some elder signs and get him to go somewhere. I don't know.
He needs to go to one of the other worlds.
Because
that's where they're from. Tell me about Cthulhu.
So, I mean, he's like he's the one who hogs the spotlight. He's the one everyone's just like, yeah, Cthulhu. There's the Call of Cthulhu. There's the games. There's all that other stuff. He's like the big guy that the show leads up into. They're just like, yeah, he's scary. So, he's kind
so
of
big.
Specific. Yeah. No, but it's like he can be like the size of a person, and that, or he can like grow to the size of a continent, is essentially what I was told. And like what's really creepy about him is that like,
I meet a person-sized Cthulhu and I want to hug it.
I mean, you could. It has like a human torso. So he was said to he has like a human torso with like bat rubber wings kind of coming out, jutting out of his like shoulder blades. And then like, I don't know what his legs are doing. I didn't really get too much of a vibe about that, but
what his legs are doing?
He's doing something.
Your land.
And then like his head is like an octopus with like tentacles and like other creepy things jutting out of it, doing whatever they want, being scary times. And yeah, no, it's a really uncomfortable thing to see. But the biggest thing is that like he can grow as many limbs and like to any size as he needs to, or it needs to.
You guys can't see me, but I look terrified.
To do whatever he needs to do. So basically,
just utter nonsense. What is he doing?
I don't know. He's
always
doing.
the thing is like
he's
it's
doing
that big
something.
build up. Like the whole thing is the big build up, and then the end is just like you're dead now.
Yeah, there's not really a good way to fight our friend
That's
there.
the whole thing. You're
He's
just
not really
dead.
trying to, have any challengers.
No.
But he was invented, in the 20th century. He was in the Call of Cthulhu, cosmic being, terrifying power, all that other la-da-da. Says his head could reach the height of hundreds of meters tall. Is capable of altering his shape and size at will.
He's 100
being anywhere between the
meters big.
size of a man and the size of a continent. And capable of
condiment.
spawning any number of limbs as it chooses.
Scary.
Yeah.
He, in the Mountains of Madness story, it was like his children against the elder things, which were in the mountain. And those things are real creepy like.
Yeah. It's true.
They're like, everything is gross. Like Cthulhu is scary because it's like a tentacle beast, which is its own thing. There's a whole thing for tentacle beasts and people's infatuation.
They're not
with
your
them.
favorite?
I don't mind them as much as most people, but I'm also not like into them.
You're not like
other
excited
people.
about it.
So yeah, indifferent is the answer. But the rest of these things, like some of them are just dumb looking, but like
Oh, for sure.
like the Shoggoth and the elder things and Migo, like all those things are really gross and creepy.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of have a similar theme in that, like, they usually have bat wings that are, like, jutting out of whatever part of the people they want. They usually are compared to, like, crabs. Like, they'll usually have, like, crustacean parts or, like, antenna or, like, bug parts.
Yeah.
And then we'll have, like, very mild shapes of human forms, but not really. Like, some of them don't have any even kind of shape of human form, but some of them do, where they can, like, they're bipedal. Instead of, running around like, what's the other
Like a
one?
bear.
Quadrupeds.
Bears can do both.
Thank you.
I'm contributing.
But I guess we're talking about one. A wild Migo has a beard.
Migos.
No.
Cardi B is marrying one of them.
Yeah. Okay. But he wasn't it wasn't a god or godlike entity. They were straight up aliens.
Migo?
Yeah, it's an alien.
Nice.
So it's made of some sort of unnatural substance that doesn't occur on Earth at all. And basically are a gross cross between fungus and a lobster with bat wings. And they let them fly from Earth to Pluto. Seeing as they worship the jerks Nartheteps. I don't know what these things are. They're all little weird words. So one of the Nartheteps and wgah'nagl. Those are two other creatures that are a thing.
Yeah. Lots of consonants.
But they're vicious and terrible, and they waged a massive war against the elder things at one point in time because there's a whole story that exists around it.
And people are just these small just viewers of the remnants of it. Because it's like elder things are just like cool monster aliens that made...
The elder things?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're aliens.
Yeah, and they made like cool like high-tech, like almost like Atlantis but in the snowy mountains. Like high-tech city, and then they had a war.
Yeah, and the
they
biggest
were
thing,
losing.
and what they did is basically like, well, they did some bad stuff, but they did like other things that are like, I guess, kind of okay. They were seen as not that bad of a guy, but like not great
in the grand scheme of things.
in the grand scheme. They're just aliens, doing their thing, building stuff, going about their business, and then had that big war with the Migo and the great race of Yith. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Cthulhu's babies.
And they created the Shoggoths, which are terrifying.
Those are the goop monsters with like 20,000 eyes on them, and it's like twigs sticking out of them.
Yeah, no, they have like weird tentacle body, twig body, leg things, and then there's just a bunch of eyes just looking at you forever.
Why did they make that?
Well, I'll tell you.
Cool.
Yeah. They were created as a slave race, basically to build massive underwater cities through hypnosis. So they basically were anamorphous blobs made from protoplasmic slime with a bunch of eyes placed all over the place.
Protoplasmic slime.
Yeah, and they have a lot of strength and, gross bodies and weird limbs. And they can kind of just mold their bodies to do whatever kind of task you need them to be. So they use them to build cities and, all the infrastructure of their land. And then they were like, yo, that's not cool. I want to do stuff. I want to like build my own cities, rude. And then they rose up against the elder things.
So
we're like, hey, I want to do my own thing, guys. That's what they said.
Is it like an alien version of Egypt when the Jews rose up?
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like there were some parallels, even though, he hated Jewish people.
Doing? What
He
is
doesn't
doing?
know.
I don't know if that's
I
insulting.
don't think he knows. So, yeah. But essentially, they, like, went... wait. This is the best thing I've ever seen in my life. So, the Shaggots had a tendency to scream a cry of, tickly-lil. That's what it was. That's what it says. It's literally, tickly-lil. Tick-elly-lil. And they did it twice, over and over again. And the sound is theorized to be instruction uttered by the elder things as their masters to extort, like, make them do better, work harder.
So is that their, like, Pokemon call?
Yeah, I guess so. For catching them. Yep, that.
Shoggoths are scary.
They were just trying to be free, though. They're brainwashed little alien babies. They didn't know.
Yes.
They didn't know. Wasn't their fault.
I'm sorry.
Gabe.
I didn't do it.
Why do you hate them? They didn't do it.
One of my favorite things about some of the monsters, and ones we're not even going to mention, is that there's some that are just mentioned in passing in some of his, like, books, and they never really got their own, like, moment to shine. But because they're, like, mentioned in passing,
Like,
they
you have
get
to come
this
up with the whole thing.
crazy background. And, like, his fan base has done that. Like, Haster has this intense following, and there's, like, 2 lines about Haster.
The entire thing.
Like, yeah, it happens
so
often.
Fun fact.
Yeah.
The Shaggoth things, essentially they were, like, brought on by different groups, and there were different kinds made. So the ones that were, like, freed did their own thing. There was, like, an underwater version. They were just called water Shaggoths. And it's like they had all these and then there was one alien thing that bred a whole more subservient version of them.
Oh, these poor things.
Yeah. And, like, made them their own thing on their alien planet.
Wow.
Yeah, it was the whole time.
That's the whole time.
All right. I like that most of them are aliens.
Yeah. Well, that's just the thing, is that they're extraplanar beings. Like, they're from somewhere else. Or, like, Cthulhu is just, like, under the surface, just asleep, waiting to wake up if you say the right phrase a few times and you wear a black hood in a creepy New England town.
Yeah, and you just go blip, 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 blip. But with, like, actual words, and then you make the stuff happen. You make the stuff happen.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying is.
So Howard Phillips is a weirdo.
Yeah, he did a whole thing.
But he made really cool, weird creatures. I just feel like he was like, what are the 3 creepiest animals on Earth?
Yeah.
And then I'm going to use those. He was like,
no, that's literally what it was.
Hate them. Bats. Hate them.
That's literally
Snakes,
what they did, though.
Gross.
No, that's
Fungus,
literally what they did.
ick.
And they just combined them all and just, like, set them free. He did creepy, and he set the monsters free. And now we're capturing them on the internet.
He's so bizarre. So bizarre.
Yep, there you go. We caught them all. Except there's a lot more. But that's my little take on the few that we decided to mention.
Cthulhu will pull us through.
You teach me and I'll teach you. Cthulhu. No, wait. Fiend gluey me glue.
Excellent.
I'm proud of you.
We did it.
How many versions of the chant can we make into a song? It's a challenge. Please send us your versions.
Yes. Do that.
Because I think it would amuse me greatly.
Yeah, someone tell us how to say it. One. And then we all get together. We have a meetup where we wear cloaks.
Yes.
And we say it.
We say it in our own way.
Do you think there's, like, fanfic Cthulhu, like, romance?
Yes.
work? Like what
you
they do?
thought you put it out into the universe. It exists.
Like
I guarantee it exists
because
now.
there's like Slenderman fanfic where people will think
Why?
about him. Like
He's
no
not
lie.
Cute.
No, but now I want to.
I'm happy you didn't argue with me. All right.
Someone please. One, if it doesn't exist, I need someone to make it for me.
And if it does exist, please
Share
send
it
it to
with
us because we need to
Can
know.
someone make a Cthulhu romantic fanfic with me in it?
Yes.
I want it so bad.
I mean,
Okay.
and your birthday's coming up, so I'll work on it.
Thanks. I can't wait.
Films. Yeah, films. Yeah, films. We watch some films. Now let's talk about those films. And all that spooky stuff. And all that spooky stuff.
Guys, we just lied to you. You just heard a whole interstitial that was like
About
films.
films.
We're talking about films. Well,
We're not.
psych.
We're talking about games. Let's talk about
What
games. Okay.
Okay. And all that spooky stuff. Yeah. There are films, kind of.
Yeah,
And
they're
then
mostly bad.
they're very bad. And then there's the endlessly in creation Guillermo del Toro, Mountains of Madness, I believe, film that's just been a WIP for forever.
Yeah.
And it's just not, we're not going to talk about it. So the thing about us is that we're multifaceted. We
Yeah.
do more than just watch TV.
Yeah.
Believe it.
We do lots of things. We have friends, and we talk to them,
Yeah.
and sometimes we'll
We go
invite them
outside.
over, and we'll play scary games together, like Arkham Horror or
Call of
our
Cthulhu.
own Call of Cthulhu campaign that Gabe created that was pretty fucking great.
Thanks.
And then make each other go insane, and it's a whole time.
It's fun. It's just fun.
Board
It's
games,
just
video games.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's just a good time.
Me
So
gluey.
there's the thing about it is like there's not a lot of
You're
films
welcome.
that are mainstream, but there are a lot of games.
There's a lot of games.
There's
yeah.
so many games that are inspired by him, and I think the reason is because of what we were saying with the Call of Cthulhu thing, and that it's it's scary because you're just a person.
Yeah.
And like your main thing is like you hide and you do not fight the things and you're just trying to figure out what's going
You're
on.
just like, why am I here? I don't know.
Yeah, like there's a whole game where you're a journalist and you have a camera and that's like one of your basic light sources, but the entire game is you hiding in closets.
Yeah.
As you're investigating like a messed up insane asylum.
You're just
Right.
like, why is this happening? That's the whole time.
Yeah, and now there's also Amnesia: The Dark Descent.
Yeah. Thanks,
The Dark
PlayStation Plus.
Descent.
I got all of them for free.
Yeah. Well, because it was back in 2010. It's 8
All I'm
years old
saying
now.
is it was free, and that's why we have it.
Let me tell you about this game
Okay.
for people who did not get it for free. Let me tell you about Amnesia: The Dark Descent, Cat. Let me tell you about it.
Tell
for a
me about it,
second.
Stud.
You got it. In late August 1839, Daniel, a young man. Why was that to you? Why is 1839 so delicious? That was a
You're
good
just
year.
saying
Yum,
words
yum,
so
yum.
nice. Words so your ears.
You were like,
Yum, yum,
oh,
yum.
named Daniel. There's a man.
Ah, yes.
Okay,
Tell me
interesting.
more.
He's super dead. 1839. I love it.
Yeah.
in late
Sexy.
in late August 1839, Daniel, a young man from London, awakens in the dark and empty halls of the Prussian Brennenburg Castle with little to no memory about
Oh
himself
no.
or his past.
Yes.
All he can remember is his name, that he lives in Mayfair. His name is Daniel, by the way. And that something
Good,
is
thanks.
haunting him. Something's
Oh no.
I'm being hunted
Hunting.
too. He finds a note written to himself, which informs him that he has deliberately erased his own memory and is being hunted by a shadow, which doesn't seem very practical. If you're
Yeah, it'd be like,
You would
former
probably-
self, what the heck?
I
More
need
than a
to
shadow,
know.
please.
I need to know that I'm being hunted. Like, why'd you erase my memory and now I'm like severely like handicapped in my ability to know what's happening and then fight this shadow beast?
Well, because he was going insane.
Anyway, he instructs him to descend into the inner sanctum Always make sure that you get permission before you descend into someone's inner sanctum.
Yes, probably.
Of the castle in order to find and kill its baron, Alexander.
Yes.
So that's the thing. Quite.
Yeah, quite. Yes.
1839. Nice. Damn, I don't know which trigger word it was for you. Was
Me
it
either. I was
August?
reacting to your voice.
Was it late?
You were just talking all sultry like, and I was
it
like,
in?
I'm going to contribute to this by also talking sultry like, and
Did you
then
get
that's what I did.
Aroused by the word in.
Jesus Christ, Gabe.
All right, here we go. So
Say other words, please.
I'm afraid.
No.
I don't know what I might say that'll trigger you. No, stop. So this game is wonderful, and in that it's terrifying.
You know, it's really, it's like you say
difficult.
wonderful, but at the same time, you're playing it and you're like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing.
I was very
And you're
angry.
just running around. You're like, why? I need my memories. It was the one thing that I needed. Why? Like, what is this? And you're just stressed the whole time.
Yeah, the worst part about the situation, and the worst in that, like, I mean, it's enjoyable because it's scary.
Yeah.
But what makes it difficult is that this character is just terrified of everything. Daniel's
He's throwing
just
chairs all around.
so afraid of things. Like, he's terrified of the darkness, and you don't really have a complete understanding of why, but he is a phobia. It's not just, I don't like it. He has a straight phobia, and if you're in there, he starts hyperventilating. The colors start fading. He gets all dizzy, or you as a character get dizzy.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, when you're playing, you're just hearing him panting. Your vision is limited. You might pass out from insanity, and you can't see well.
Yeah.
It's crippling. And it, like, this whole game plays on claustrophobia. It plays on this fear of water. There's a whole terrifying water thing where you don't know what's in the water. You know, you just don't want to be in there, and it's just splashing, and you just have to, like, hop on things so you can avoid it. And then it's
This
just
sounds like my literal nightmare.
Yes.
Oh my God.
And then there's a lot of running around and trying to light things and conserve your lanterns, but you're also afraid of the darkness. And then it's rude because the whole castle's full of, like, gaping holes, so mystical wind comes through and will put out all the lights because they didn't have bulbs. They just have candles in this stupid castle. And you're like, why am I here? Why wouldn't I get myself out of the castle, away from
These
it,
are questions.
and then erase my memory because I'm safe? And I get it. It's probably because you have to kill. We did not finish this game because it's tough.
hard.
It's very tough, and it's also scary.
It was
And-
created in a time where games were still really hard.
Yeah.
Now they're really easy, and they're just made so, like, you get the journey.
Yeah, you enjoy
Back then, it was just like,
challenge.
well, good luck. I did a thing.
Guess because I still hold out hope that we'll finish it, so I haven't spoiled it for myself.
Yeah.
But my guess is that he has to kill Alexander. So, like, you know, he gave himself the advantage of you're not insane, so because we erased your memory, and I just have to fight him with this clean slate, and that's why he can't run away. But screw that. I don't care what Alexander's doing to the world. Why do I gotta save it in this dark, damp basement?
I'm just saying, babe. That's what the
With the
journey's
cask
about.
of Amontillado all over the place. So Justine is a expansion separate pack, which is just like you get a one and done. You have to get through it, and it starts immediately with the monsters there. Your whole thing is just like get out of this place and solve all the puzzles.
Yeah.
And it says something like you can save them all. There's a way, but I didn't get that far. I literally opened the first door, and I went into the big room, and then I was trying to figure out how to pick stuff up, and then a monster got me. I tried to close the gate, and then it just broke the gate, and then it broke me, and then I was like, enough of that game.
Yeah, this is done now.
And then there's also in the expansion
Did we have to watch
Machine for
cartoons all
Pigs.
night? Because
No, we didn't.
it's funny. Calling out one of our friends.
There's another one called Machine for Pigs, but I refuse to play it because it
They're
features
pig monsters,
pig
right?
monsters. And I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it.
I understand.
I refuse.
Yeah.
I have a line and I'm drawing it. I can handle squid monsters and slimy eyeball monsters all day.
Mm-hmm.
Send
All
my
day.
way. All day.
All day.
Not darkness, though.
Or
And-
water.
Or water or brief wind. That terrifies
I hate
my
brief
character.
wind.
But yeah, there's a lot of video games that are inspired by him. But there's also the Call of Cthulhu RPG campaign. And then there's also, which was inspired by the Call of Cthulhu RPG campaign, the board game Arkham Horror.
Arkham Horror.
The game is set in Lovecraft's fictional city of Arkham during 1926. Street, building, and outdoor locations are featured, as well as otherworldly locations that investigators can venture into. So, here's how it works.
Tell us.
You get an investigator who is a normal person.
Yep, hanging out.
Maybe you're a professor. You're just a guy who works for the mob. Maybe you're Hobo Johnson. That's a band. You're the hobo guy with the dog. The tools that you have is like money so that you can buy things. You might dabble in witchcraft, so there's like a magician. But yeah, essentially you're just a normal person and you're traveling around Arkham, and then monsters start popping up because as you're playing, gates are opening up. And your whole thing is to like get rid of the monsters, and you do that in different ways. Like you can fight them, which you gotta be ready. Because you're gonna be straight up dead, like immediately. Or like you get certain cards that will be banishing them. If you close certain gates, then those ones can't come anymore. It's a whole thing.
Yeah, but you can get like all the things to fight them with instead of just your like self.
Yeah, and you get like magic and different weapons and things. But you go around, and every time you go into a place, you have an encounter of some sort. So either there's a person or something weird happens to you, or you just get straight up sent to another world.
Yeah, the cards are good.
World. And then you like have to deal with being in the outer world. It's just like you got sent to
Wgah'nagl is one of them, which is like mentioned for one of like the alien planets.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. So like if you get
City
put
of the
to one of
Great Race.
those, and then you like it's like you land here. You witness something unspeakably traumatizing.
And it usually makes you lose sanity.
Yeah, and you passed out because you're insane now. And now you're stuck in the in-between.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Arkham Horror is super dope. It's very really hard. If you're a board game person, they also have expansions, of which I have 2, which will either be more cards, so you can get more like villains, you can get more characters, you can get more circumstances. You can also get entire new sections of town. So like you have Arkham Horror is just like the Arkham world, but you can also get like the university. You can get like this. You can get the Innsmouth. That's like the main Cthulhu lore. Like you have the occultists. The different monsters that you're fighting are really interesting, and how they affect you are really interesting. It's super great. And like, yeah, you're just like kind of working together. It's not competitive. Like you're not playing.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a team effort. You're the competitor. The competitor is the big bad demon god, whatever the heck it is, thing that you're fighting.
Yeah, and you're working together and you're strategizing, because it's like you have one person who's now like closing gates. You have this person who's like trying to figure out things, and then you got this other person who's punching monsters. Yeah,
usually you got one friend who's like trying to like really amp up their like items and like healing stuff and getting all those elder signs or whatever they are. And then you have the other friend who's like gung-ho and like fighting everything, because they got the like they chose the character that would be able to do that without going super crazy real quick. And like usually you picked your characters strategically.
And it's like if you like RPGs and if you like nerd games and being spooked and strategy, like grab some friends and grab a few hours and just sit and play them. Yeah. So cool. Come and hang out with us. We'll play it with you. We love this game.
And I really got to say, like, if we're looping back to the Call of Cthulhu campaign, that was really fun. Aww. It's a really good time. I mean, you just got to get one friend who really likes to, like, come up with stories and, like, spook you.
Yeah.
And then they'll be the one doing it. And then you're just, like, along for the ride, hoping that you figure out what the heck's going on.
Yeah. I mean, you also, again, you can listen to How We Roll podcast. So giving them a shout out, because I really enjoy them and they inspire me all the time to do that. But there's also like there's campaigns that you can purchase, there's campaigns that you can download, there's campaigns that the guy who runs How We Roll has made himself and has played in there, so you can hear how they play it and kind of get an idea of how to do it yourself. But it's a really fun time, and especially for beginners to role playing, it's kind of a fun time, because when you can do a one shot, so it won't take up your whole life. Your character's also probably different from D&D,
because it's D&D's like long game.
Yeah, I mean Cthulhu, you can do one shots, but
1 or 2 off.
Yeah, usually it's pretty chill. You're not gonna have these characters for forever.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's just like a fun, creepy time. And since it's October,
Mm-hmm.
this is the best time to do that.
Yeah. Get spoopy.
Feelings. Yeah, feelings. Yeah, I said feelings. Let's talk about feelings. Okay. And all that spooky stuff. I love spooky stuff.
The thing about Christopher Walken is he gets very excited. Fingluey, mglw'nafh, Cthulhu R'lyeh, wgah'nagl, fhtagn.
Yeah.
Thanks.
What
YouTube.
if you summoned Cthulhu and he sounded like that?
I would be like, all right, I'm fine with this.
I'm Cthulhu, and that's my impression. I could do two
Like,
words.
oh, I'm so happy you're here.
So it'll be, if you like it, it's 50 Shades of Cthulhu.
Yeah, because we want an erotic fan fiction of Gabe and Cthulhu.
Me and Cthulhu
It needs to happen.
and his big, strong human arms. But
Oh my
his
gosh.
scaly bat wings.
He has bat wings and he has an octopus
No
face.
judgment.
Just-
He's beautiful on the inside.
You know he's probably
He's
not.
He's probably monstrous. Or, if you don't like it, it's Whipple Van Buren Phillips.
Because that's a funny
That's-
name.
Yeah, Howard Phillips Lovecraft. His grandpa. He was
Not
a
that we
nice
didn't
guy,
like the
probably.
grandpa. It's
But
just
his
like
name is
his name's
Whipple, and it's
goofy.
fun.
Yeah.
He was a grown man named Whipple Van Buren Phillips. He probably had an awesome mustache.
Oh my God. Yes, he did.
Let's just say about the topic of Lovecraft, about Howard Phillips himself. How do
Like,
you
as
feel
a
about
person?
Lovecraft? Yeah.
No, you can go somewhere.
He can Whipple Van Buren Phillips.
Yeah, he can Whipple Van Buren Phillips. Because he wasn't a good guy.
I know.
He also hated my people and like, how dare you?
Yeah.
Rude.
Right. Agree.
And then like use all their like stuff.
Yeah, and his lore. I'm there with you. Him as a person, nah, son.
Yeah, he can go somewhere.
He can Whipple Van Buren his way out of here.
That's how I feel.
Yeah, but what about the whole shebang?
I mean, the rest of it's
The
great.
Cool stuff that came out.
50 Shades of
Cthulhu.
Cthulhu, yeah. I think the Amnesia games definitely were a time when games were still really hard and I cannot play it. I tried. I lose every time. I die all a bunch. And then I'm not, I don't want to keep going. So I'm like, how many times do I have to restart this?
It's so bad.
I don't want to start over
I'm
again.
just gonna watch a walkthrough.
Yeah, no, like it's honestly like I can't do it. But Arkham and Call of Cthulhu and all of that stuff about it.
Yeah.
And Amnesia's great because it's scary. Like it genuinely is. Like in the very subtle ways that you would want a scary game to be scary, and it's not so much monsters as you would expect it as in a Lovecraftian thing. It's more the like wind and the fear of the dark and all this, and it's just like really playing upon phobias and fear to make something that like really isn't that scary really, really scary.
It makes things real in a really unreal circumstance.
Yeah.
Like, were there to be these monstrous beasts, this is what we are. We're just normal people. I just really love the, like, getting to be in that place, and you're just, like, in Arkham, you're in Boston, where everyone's kind of hard-edged anyway. It's, like, 1920. So y'all, or 1900s even, they all talk really weird. And then you're just like investigating, and there's so many layers in it. And when there's a Call of Cthulhu campaign that's done right, it's so fun. Because the whole thing is investigating, which is one of my favorite things to do, like in games.
Yeah, and I mean, I definitely agree. Like the whole regular person dynamic really makes it more enjoyable, because I feel like when you have like fantasy and stuff like that, you lose that a lot of the time. 'Cause usually you're this like fantastical thing that has powers and can fight all this stuff. Or when you're like, not saying Cthulhu's gonna come hang out and like ruin the world. We're here, we're doing it, and if like that's what happens, we have to deal with it. So it's like fun to kind of have like in something so fantastical and crazy still have this like element of realness.
And I like, we didn't really talk a lot about, or at all really, his actual writings. But like, that's very much why they're like that. It's just like it's following these normal people, or it's like a white man who went to Africa and touched the wrong artifact, and now he's like his entire expedition died out of insanity, and now he's back and he's like going insane and might have unleashed like a monster. Or there's an entire creepy town full of weird looking like fish people who are summoning Cthulhu or something, and
those are Daggons specifically.
They're so
just so you know, that's one of his
crazy.
creatures.
Yeah,
The fish people are
the
Daggons.
fish people. And when they're revealed, oh man, what a journey, guys. Definitely like read his stuff.
We wouldn't have a classic horror month
Yeah,
if it wasn't a thing. It's just like, this is the stuff that influences pop culture and the things that, you know, we fear today. It's stuff that's always been universally scary, and they're the ones who really like brought light to it and really connected it to a bunch of other stuff.
I think he wanted to be antagonistic and he wanted to argue, and then when he actually got down to the nitty-gritty of meeting people and talking to them and befriending them, he was like super nice, and he was like, oh well, I met you and now you're nice. But I mean, for that, there's that to thank him for, but otherwise, get with the times, guy.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much for listening.